Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers, and I am finally going to do my full review of the Asics Fuji Lite 3 trail running shoe. Let's take a look. The Asics Fuji Lite 3 costs £125 or $120. It weighs in at 252 grams or 8.9 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 4mm. The Asics Fuji Lite 3 is a trail shoe designed to be lightweight and nimble, with a natural feel and flexibility that has a surprisingly cushioned midsole despite the low stack height. That midsole is made from Flytefoam cushioning that offers a soft yet responsive transition over harder surfaces, and there's an Asicsgrip outsole rubber to improve durability and add grip across varied terrain. The shoe's lightweight and breathable engineered mesh upper is made from at least 50% recycled materials and features reflective detailing for visibility along with 3D design elements to add structure. There's also a lace garage tongue for tucking in laces and keeping them out of the way on the trails. Okay, so the fit for me in the Asics Fuji Lite 3 is definitely true to size. It is a very comfortable shoe. There's a nice little bit of space in the forefoot, but it's not a massively relaxed shoe. Definitely would fit true to size in this shoe because it is very comfortable. Okay, so the run test. I'm going to put the shoe down now because I've just washed these and they're very wet, so they're dripping all over the floor. I have done quite a few runs in the Asics Fuji Lite 3 so far, and the first run I did was actually one of the biggest first runs I've ever done. It was a 30k long run across about 15k across the South Downs and about 15k on road. Since then I've done a couple of shorter trail runs, and today I headed out to do a 25k full trail run on the South Downs on pretty tough terrain. So I really wanted to test out how this shoe delivered when you're going all out on the trails and not just doing road to trail runs. On that run I was a bit wary about taking it out, to be honest, because it's been raining a lot on the Downs at the moment. It's been quite stormy around the South Downs, and to be honest, normally I would probably look at taking something like the Salomon Speedcross 6 up there when the conditions are like this, because I knew I was going to be doing a lot of elevation today and I probably would need a lot of grip. I ended up doing I think a whole kilometre worth of elevation across the whole of that 25k, which was a pretty heavy run for me and took quite a lot of effort. So when I was picking up the Fuji Lite 3, I wasn't entirely sure if it was the right shoe to go for. It's a shoe designed for road to trail. It's not really an aggressive trail shoe, so I'd probably say it's better suited to road and trails that are a little bit lighter, so maybe forest trails, canal paths, things like that. And the lugs on here, I'll briefly take this up, are quite small, so there's only probably a couple of millimeters on this, and I was thinking that I'm probably going to be slipping and sliding about on that 15k, but in fact it was very good. I got a bit lucky when I went up today because it wasn't as wet as I thought. Somehow it had evaporated a little bit, so it wasn't as bad, but it was quite muddy, and there were bits that probably would have been a bit slippy if I wasn't wearing a shoe that could handle it. But the Asics Fuji Lite 3 today was really good, actually. I was quite surprised. I didn't slip about at all. And even though the lugs are quite small on it, it did a very good job at gripping to the ground. And there were some pretty tough inclines and declines today, and I didn't at any point feel like I was going to slip over or I was losing control on those on the Downs. So very impressed today with that run. What I would say about the Asics Fuji Lite 3, when I first tested it, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a great road to trail shoe. I found it really comfortable to run on road for 15k with. The midsole of the shoe, Flytefoam midsole, is very, very lightweight. There's a nice bit of cushioning in it, and there's not massive lugs on it, so it does feel a little bit like a road shoe, and you could probably run a lot further on the road in it. It's very similar to other road shoes that I run in, and it definitely does the job for road. And on the trails, it's actually really good as well. What I find about this shoe on the trails is that I really like the lightweight feel of it. A lot of the trail shoes I've got tend to be quite clunky. They're designed to really give your feet a lot of protection when you're out on the trails. But if you want to run fast, a lot of trail shoes can feel a little bit heavy, and that's not necessarily very nice when you're out on the trails and you're picking up mud and things like that. But the Fuji Lite 3 is a trail shoe that is quite lean. It's really quite a minimal trail shoe. The upper itself is very similar to something like the Nova Blast. There's not a lot of protection around the shoe, and it's a very lightweight upper. So I definitely say that it's a shoe that veers more towards the road style, and if you were doing harder trails where there's lots of rocks on there, you probably wouldn't want to wear this shoe because you're not going to get protection on the upper that you would in a lot of other shoes that have extra protection, rubber on the upper to stop those rocks hurting your feet. Equally, most of the run today was absolutely perfect, but as I was filming today, I wasn't really paying attention to the trails, and there's one point where I stood on a rock, and the midsole foam is quite thin on the Fuji Lite 3, and a rock sort of hit me in the middle of my foot, and I hurt quite a bit for probably about a couple of minutes. So I'd definitely say this is not a shoe designed for aggressive rocky terrain, because even though it's fine for most of it, if you do hit a rock, it's going to hurt, and it's not really designed for that. So a lot of the stuff I was doing today was fine. I was running across a lot of fields, and it was great on fields. It felt very lightweight and didn't have any issues with it at all. On the muddier tracks, it felt great. I definitely wouldn't want to run in really sloppy mud in it because I think it would get a bit slippy. But today, when it was a little bit lighter and it wasn't too wet, it was fine, and I didn't have any issues at all. But definitely not one for the more aggressive trails. I think one of the big things I found about the shoe is that you can run fast in it. It's a great road to trail shoe if you want to run fast. If you want to go at speed. And a lot of trail shoes don't do that because of the protection and because of the weight of the shoes. They're not really designed for running really fast. And there are some things like the Saucony Endorphin Edge, which are designed to run fast. But even that shoe is quite a big shoe. It's quite clunky and it doesn't feel very natural. The Fuji Lite 3 feels extremely natural. The relatively low drop feels great. And it's not a barefoot shoe, but because of the natural feel of the shoe and the way that it flexes when you run in it, and that foam is very malleable, it does feel like a very natural shoe to run in. So I've really enjoyed it when I'm out on the run. It just feels like I can jump around quite nicely and not worry about the weight of the shoe, but also it's very nimble as well. So you can land on things and it doesn't feel like you're lugging a big shoe around all the time. It's very comfortable from that point of view. The upper is very lightweight, it's very breathable, so it's a good shoe to wear if you're running in hotter places or if you're running fast, which is what the shoe is designed for, and your feet are getting hot. It will also be good for that as well. So my feet haven't got hot in this shoe at all. There's minimal waterproofing though, so when it does get wet, and I was running through puddles today, my feet got wet. It's not a shoe that's going to protect you from the wet. So take that into consideration if you're looking at this shoe. It doesn't really have a lot of water protection in it, so it's probably a better one for the spring and the summer. In the comments on the first run video that I did on the Fuji Lite 3, somebody did ask if it was similar to the Peregrine 12. It is in some ways. I would say that the Peregrine 12, Saucony Peregrine 12, is actually a bit more rigid than this shoe. The Peregrine 12 is a fantastic shoe for road to trail, but it actually veers a bit more towards the trail, so it can handle a lot. But it is a little bit more rigid in the midsole and the outsole. So I'd definitely say that Fuji Lite 3 is a more comfortable shoe to wear, more natural shoe, and definitely one that just feels nicer on the feet and less like a trail shoe, which is what you get from something like the Peregrine 12. So yeah, in all the runs I've done, I've really enjoyed the shoe. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it's definitely a shoe that I would look at for a lot of faster paced trail runs, but also just if you want to go out and have a nice run and you're maybe not going too aggressive on where you're running, but you want something light and nimble so you can pick up the pace. And today, when I was running on those downhills, I could really pick up the pace nicely. It's very comfortable, and I had complete control over where I was putting my feet. On the uphills, it also feels you're not pulling anything up that's really heavy. So it's a great shoe if you're the sort of runner that's going up the trails and you want to have the flexibility to run a little bit faster. But overall, on all of those runs that I've tested it on, and I've done about 80k in it now, I think it's a fantastic shoe. It's definitely one of my favourite trail shoes out at the moment. And if you have a rotation where you have multiple trail shoes, it's a definite good one to have if you want a designated fast trail shoe, and you can cover pretty much every distance with this shoe because I think the cushioning is more than enough to deal with longer distance stuff. I've done up to 30k, could definitely go longer in it, and had no issues with the size of the cushioning in the shoe. So my verdict on the Asics Fuji Lite 3 after about 80k of running over various terrain is that it is a fantastic lightweight feeling trail shoe that really comes into its own when you want to go out and have a nimble, faster run over the trails, and you want to be able to jump about and really enjoy that run without sacrificing too much when it comes to cushioning and comfort. It's a really versatile shoe for me. I think that cushioning is great. When it comes to the road, that cushioning is more than enough for dealing with longer distance efforts. But when you're out on the trails, the leaner feel of the shoe means that it doesn't feel heavily weighty and then like you're pulling along quite a heavy shoe when you're out there running. So I think it's a great shoe to have in your armory if you're the sort of runner that wants a trail shoe that can let you just run a bit faster, instead of a lot of the trail shoes out there that are probably a little bit cumbersome in comparison to this shoe. I'd probably say that a good comparison for the shoe that I've tested is the Arc'teryx Northern SL2, which is a very lean trail running shoe, which is very, very light, and it's really designed for fast, short distance efforts. Doesn't have a lot of cushioning on it, and it's really not designed for going out for long runs, and there's not a lot of protection in it. But in many ways, it is quite similar to the Fuji Lite 3, but the Fuji Lite 3 is just way more versatile. You can really do a lot of miles in this shoe, and you get a lot of protection from that midsole foam. It's also very natural feeling shoe, and if you're the sort of runner that likes to really feel the ground when you're out running on the trails, and you don't want too much stack in there, or you don't want too much rigidity to that midsole foam, it does feel very natural and very flexible when you're out on the run. So if you're jumping around, bouncing across different types of ground and stuff like that, you can really do it in this shoe, and it's just feels very lightweight to do that. It's a very versatile shoe, and it's definitely one that I would use for doing faster efforts out on the trails. Okay, so that's it from me on my glowing review of the Asics Fuji Lite 3. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click that little bell icon, and check the channel out for all the other videos we've got for latest road and trail shoes, as well as running headphones and watches out at the moment. And if you go into the caption below and click on the link to our latest podcast, you can listen to us talking about, well, if you listen to this in January, you'll be able to listen to us talking about beginner runners and the sort of kit that they will need. And if you like it, please give us a rating and maybe leave us a little review as well, and that would be really helpful. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.